and asked me to table this. I think there was some talk on council as well about tabling until we had a little bit more information, which was the whole genesis of the, now infamous 14 questions that went out to the parking authority for more information. That was the intention. I don't think there's anyone on the council who thinks $10 is the right amount of fine for a ticket. So I think everyone's in agreement on that. The question was, as you're referencing leverage, this is our first opportunity to be part of the conversation. The parking authority doesn't come to us to ask us for much other than increases in fines, as well as the last time they came to us was to back the debt for New Street garage. So this is our opportunity to be part of that conversation about what is parking in our city and ask some questions for more information, for clarification from the parking authority. What is their 1-year goal, their 5-year goal, and what is the overall idea of parking within the city? And I think right now the hot ticket item is that Polk Street garage, which has been talked about for years, dating back, before I was on council to when the RDA was originally talking about pressing for that, which is a whole different issue, which I'm sure we'll be talking about in upcoming weeks. But as you mentioned, Mr. Callahan, I think the rate increase was to pay for Polk Street, and the ticket increase, as you said, was to pay for Walnut Street, which in our response to that memo was talked about Walnut Street being 4 or 5 years down the line. So that money isn't really needed for Walnut Street right now, but I understand the duality of the fines and the meter rates working hand in hand. But as Dr. Van Wert said, we don't necessarily need to raise those meter rates January 1st, especially if they don't have the tool to necessarily fine folks who, as you're saying, are taking advantage of that loop around system for that savings. So I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and it's very complicated. But ultimately, I think getting a full plan on what Polk Street will be, a timeline for that, what the funding will look like, is the best approach. So I think tabling it at the request of the parking authority and the kind of general will of council is the right idea until we have a clear picture of what's going to happen with Polk Street and where that money is coming from and how these increased fines will help pay for that, as well as Walnut Street down the line. Because we asked for a business plan, we didn't really get that. So there's not a lot of confidence currently in what the long-term plan is for the parking authority. It kind of feels like they're making it up as they go because we're not getting a lot of information coming our direction. And I think a lot of that just comes from a lack of communication, maybe not necessarily from a lack of planning. So I think tabling this is the right move, and ultimately I will be supporting a fine increase when it is appropriate. Is there any other comments from members of council? Mr. Reynolds?
I just have a question for Mr.